Here we are, guys. We're here at the podcast studio. We're finally on air. Let's go inside and see the setup we've got in store for you, lucky viewers and listeners.
Hello! Hey, how you going, Tom?
Not too bad. Can you tell us a little bit about this new exciting space we've got at A&E headquarters?
Of course. Wow. Welcome along to the accumulation of a few weeks' work. We are very proud to bring you the Trades of the Round Table podcast room. It's exciting times, Tom.
It really is exciting times, isn't it? We've been building away in the background on this podcast, and we're really super excited to bring this to you.
You've had some sneaky peekies, but this is the big reveal. First of all, this is our lovely epic skyline here. There's a little sneaky secret in there as well,
There is. So we're definitely not going to go into that little secret, but hopefully somebody might be able to spot it, and if they do, they're going to win a little prize.
Yes. Secondly, this wall here is the tool wall. So you can see we've covered it in tools. It's looking pretty epic, but what we're going to do, we're going to get new tools. We're going to review them. We're going to test them. Some of them we're going to test the destruction, like completely destruction, and see just how well they handle a bit of abuse.
Oh, definitely. I think we've got to drop a few off a scaffold and run over some, and really like kind of, you know, you want them to know that they are reliable and indestructible. Exactly. A little bit like the uni lights, really, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. Plus, it will look epic and sound epic, so why not? But what we're going to do with the ones that we don't destroy, which there will be a couple, I suppose, is display them on our tool wall, okay? And when we've got enough, we're going to do a competition. So one lucky listener or one lucky viewer gets to win the whole lot. That's going to be one epic prize.
It is going to be super cool to have that every year, give all them tools away. It's going to go to some real awesome person who's going to really...
Am I going to win that?
Oh, no, you're not allowed to go into this competition. Okay. Nobody's from A&E. You're probably... What are you going to do? You get one of your cousins to enter?
Yes,
that's it. So obviously John's gone into his tall wall over there, which is an absolutely awesome wall. What we've got going on here, guys, is the wall of knowledge. I'm really super excited about this. This is my wall, and the key thing is this: any construction books you guys have got, definitely if they're gathering dust, make sure you send them in to us. If you do send us in a book, we're going to give you some of our merchandise. Now, one of the merchandise that we're going to do is the t-shirt, so if you can do us a bit of a twirl, John. We've got loads of other merchandise coming to you. So the Wall of Knowledge is all the books to do with the construction industry. We've got carpentry books, we've got brickwork books, we've got plastering books, we've got surveying books, we've got technical books that tells us all about the construction industry. Now obviously you can see we've not got loads of books, but we could do with a load more, guys, so definitely send them in, get your free t-shirt. And there's one more wall that we haven't spoken about.
Yes, the special wall.
The special wall.
This is my special wall that I spent ages, well, as well as the Wall of Knowledge as well. Yeah. Plastering, nice Venetian plastering, and now we're going to sticker bomb it.
I remember when I told you what we're going to do with this wall.
Yeah, a little tear came out. Yeah, what we're going to do is put stickers all over it.
Yeah.
So, do you want to show us about yours, mate, first?
We're going to sticker bomb this wall. So the first one we've got here is Dan Cox. He was the inventor of the roofing square. So he sent his ticket. I told him what we were doing inside the podcast room. He said, "Tane, can I be on that wall?" I said, "Yeah, cool." And who's the guy that you've got there?
This is John from JB Interiors. He was also very keen to be one of the first to display on our sticker wall. So, should we get him stick on, mate?
Well, here you go, guys.
Everyone's a winner here.
Everyone's a winner. And obviously any tradie ladies out there, it's really key that you're sending all of your stickers as well, because obviously it's really important that we get everybody involved with this podcast, isn't it, John?
Yeah, we're very keen to get everybody on board.
So here we go.
There we go.
Awesome. Look at that. That is beautiful. So a big thank you to Dan and a big thank you to John sending your stickers in. You guys are the first on the sticker wall, guys.
So we've given you a tour of the room, and now you're going to see exactly how we built it. Stay tuned and enjoy the show.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We've got something super exciting. We're going to be building a podcast studio, guys. So watch this space. Let's see you on the other side, guys. Take care. The one thing I do love to do is be organised when I'm working. So I've got my stack of timber here, so I can just drag it in straight onto the chop saw. Now that's one thing that's sort of been bred into me from the joinery shop. You had all your timber stacked in a certain room. As soon as you then pulled the timber off, it went straight to the chop saw, so you could start to then get all your timber ready then for planing. So I exactly the same on site. I'll have to get myself well set up. Look, we've got a little drop table here, put the screws on, cordless, foams, hooks, everything we need really. What I always do is I always go from the inner side, so you go 3 foot that way, that's it, 4 foot. And then what would happen now, that measurement from that corner point to that corner point over there should read exactly 5 foot. What we got, Pete?
5 foot.
Beautiful, there you go. Because I'm going to put a piece of 4x2 in there, the first thing I'll do is I'll literally put a 4x2 inside here, and then obviously I'll have a 4x2 on this side here like that, okay? On that point there, won't we guys? Because it picks the corner up then, doesn't it? So what I'll do is on this stud, I'd put that like that, that's my marker, and then I'd obviously then step 12mm past this point, and then that's my next marker. Yeah. Once all the stud works up, I'm going to start plasterboarding this side first. When I come to set my studs on the return, it's really important that you think about how the plasterboard's going to work. I've actually now got 12mm overhanging, so now when I set all my studs out at 400 centres, I know it's going to work beautifully. I personally like to put a double noggin in wherever my board's going to land. I don't like to try and latch it onto an inch of timber, even though it's acceptable. It's just personal preference. So you can see now with a 1/2 inch plasterboard that end over there, I've then marked out all my 400 centres. I'll carry on marking 400 centres here. There's 2.8, so we've got 2.4, 2.8, so that's some timber there, and then literally 3.2. Let's lock her off at that, mate. Trying to maximise this ceiling height because I want to put a bit of a drop ceiling in. We're creating a bit of like a handrail up there to stop things falling down, because we're going to shelf the other side as well. It's really key that we have as much storage as we can do. I think this ceiling space here is then going to be a really good storage for bits that we hardly ever get out. So it's really key, like lights and gutters and gullies. So I just want to get this absolutely spot on. When you're dealing with sometimes massive timbers, which are really hard, because obviously you pull and screw it at the same time, like that. So what you can do is put your screw in here like that. You can use the leverage of your hammer like this, you see. Now I pulled it flush. There you go. Boom. That's it, easy as that. With 4x2s, it's quite easy to move and twist it around because you can get your hand around it. But when you're dealing with our 8x2s, 9x2s, the leverage one like that, where you can just use the hammer leverage, just so much easier. And then all you do is boom, take it out, that's it. There you go, nice little top tip. That's really nice, that is, hiding the pipes nicely there. We're going to use rock wool, insulate all of the stud, then we're going to use sound block board and stuff like that. It'll allow us then to shoot the podcast so the audio is really, really spot on as we want it to be. I like this laser because it's actually quite cool actually. I do have another make which is a lot older than this. The thing I like about this is it's all battery.
Yeah.
Isn't it? All keys with your DeWalt stuff, DeWalt.
To be fair, I don't know.
Will that work in there?
It might do.
I don't know, will you? Well, maybe not.
Oh, no.
DeWalt have let themselves down just on that little bit. Oh,
Never mind.
Not an inch of shade. Mind you, that's probably for a very small cordless, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 10.8 volt.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, that's just sweet like this, isn't it? It's just like really cool. What's really good about the DeWalt, I've got to say, this bracket system that comes with it, it's really, really quality.
They put it up there, hopefully that'll beam that across.
Pete's now going to set this laser up, and then once we cast the laser around, when it hits them uprights there, we can then mark up where it needs to be, and then we're going to then put a 6x2 timber all the way along, so then our timber's going to go straight into it then. Okay guys? You can see Pete's lining this laser up now with the top of this. So we now know that when we put a piece of timber on there, and then run it all the way through, and we know the ceiling is going to be lovely and level. So we're going to put a load of 6x2 straight along there now, and then we're going to then screw the ceiling then into it, job done. That's it, Pete, that's lovely, mate, that's just sweet. Yeah, so what we'll do...
One side all down and then getting cut to length, yeah?
Yeah, exactly that, mate. So we need one, I think it's 14
all done.
14 all done, that's what we need.
I'll start cracking on that then.
Just come and have a look, Chris.
Is that what Pete did?
That's the one Pete did.
Come on then, now I'll give you that. We've got a couple of hours.
Hey guys, there you go. So we've got the framework up. A big thanks to Pete and Chris giving me a hand. We've got to finish it off the noggins. Obviously get all the plasterboard on the ceiling first and then the walls.
So, it's been a while, but... Hi Pete!
Hi John!
Hey! Ah, John and Pete together again.
It's been too long.
It has.
Oh, what have you been up to?
Oh, you know, stuff.
Oh, how you've grown.
So, the two of us have been reunited to work on this very special project. I'm sure you've seen a lot of footage by now and you've realised that.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
You've realised that we are making a podcast room. So, me and Pete have been drafted in to make this dream a reality. You know the tagline, dream, design, build. We've dreamed it, we've designed it, and now we're going to build it. So,
we have our framework in now, there and there, which will house our TVs. So next up, we're going to bring some ply up and get all these walls ply lined, just to give everything a nice bit of rigidity. There's going to be Venetian plaster on there, so we need to make sure that's nice and solid. And then there's also going to be printing done on these two walls, so we just need to make sure that nothing moves anywhere. Not that it will with these timbers, but you know, belt and braces, just the way we like to do it. Okay.
today I'm going to show you the process of plastering this room. It's not going to be a how-to video because we've done a couple of those already on plastering, so obviously you're well aware of how to plaster a wall by now, or how to plaster a ceiling because you've watched my other videos. So yeah, well, I'm just literally going to skim this room out, just show you the process really. So we're going to start up by mixing some plaster. So on my last video, I showed you how to mix plaster. A few people commented, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. At the end of the day, everybody plasters differently. Everybody mixes up differently, everybody puts it on differently, everyone uses a different trowel. So long as, at the end of the day, your finish is bang on and the decorator can just come in and paint straight after you, that's all that matters in my opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own way. Without further ado, I'm going to mix up the plaster the way I do it. There's a lot of water in here, so one bag doesn't even really touch the sides to be honest. Stirring it nicely, no lumps at the bottom. Clean whisk, ready for next time. So, like I mentioned before, I'm a righty. In one of my videos I said always work left to right. That was for right-handed people. If you're left-handed, work right to left. So these are tapered edge boards. So what I'm going to do is just run across the joints where the tapered edge is. That's because that is obviously a low spot in the board. So by filling that out first, it just saves you a bit of hassle later. So you might wonder why I haven't plastered the ceiling first. It's because we're not plastering the ceiling. There's going to be a drop ceiling in here, so it's completely pointless. A waste of time, materials, money to skim the ceiling. So we're just leaving that because it will all be covered and you will never know. Plastering is difficult. You know, I'm not going to cast any dispersions about normal skimming like this. It's not an easy trade to do at all, especially if you're working on a site and you've got, you know, a massive amount of meterage you've got to put down. They're both normal plastering and Venetian plastering are, you know, difficult in their own ways. This is obviously a strenuous job, to be honest. You don't see many old boys working on site because it's not good for your body. It's repetitive strain all the time. But obviously Venetian, there's a lot of different techniques involved with that, and because it's not just one finish, this is just one finish, you know, you put it on, get it flat, trowel it up, that's it. Whereas Venetian, there's a lot more, there's a lot of different plasters basically, there's a lot of different finishes that you can do. It's a whole different world completely. I'll never forget my roots in plastering. I'm skimming this now in preparation for Venetian, so it's always something I'm going to need to do anyway. You can Venetian straight onto plasterboard, but it uses more material, and Venetian plaster is a lot more expensive than a couple of bags of board finish, so it makes logical sense to skim it first. Boom, first coat on. So, first coat's on, everything's cleaned down, now it's time to flatten. In my other plastering videos, I didn't use one of these. So I had a few questions, people asking if I do use one, and the answer is yes. I just didn't want to add additional tools into a video, into a how-to video. So I do use a speed skim. They're an excellent bit of kit. Obviously, your trowel is this long. This is a 600. You can also get 1200. I think you can get 1600 as well, maybe. So what you do is literally pull this across the wall, and this flattens it off over a much wider area than what a trowel would. It's basically twice the size this is. So it's a very good bit of kit to have in your arsenal. You can use this for skim, you can use it for bonding, render. There's a few different types of way. You can get one with a metal blade on it, so you can actually use these as a finishing spatula. Okay, just like that. You don't want to take off too much material with one of these. It's literally just to take any high bits off. Because if you drag your material off, you're making the first coat too thin. It's literally just where obviously your trowel strokes will overlap each other. You just want to remove that ridge basically. Just like that, the wall is flat. This is a corner trowel. Many people use it at different stages. Because I've used the speed skim, it can leave the edges a little bit unsightly, so I'm just pulling this through now just to tidy it up a little bit. Some people just leave it right till the end and then put it through and the plaster's gone off, because it can leave marks like it has here. But so long as you trowel up it, you can pull them marks out no problem, as long as you keep on top of them. This is a Marshalltown one, being a traitor to Tyzac. I don't think Tyzac do a corner trowel, to be honest. I've never seen one. They might do, but. So before I do the second coat, I'm just gonna have a quick clean up. Obviously, I'm not the messiest, but it's good to keep your work area clean, because all you're gonna do is just traipse plaster everywhere, and before you know it, you slip in, especially on a floor like this. This is an old trowel. I'm not using this for skimming the wall after. There you go, it takes like 30 seconds and then your work area is clean and tidy. One thing plasters get a bit of a bad rep for is being messy, but plastering is one of the messiest trades. You're working with a wet material, you're going to get messy, the area's going to get messy, so just try and keep it as clean as you can. You're on to a winner. Boom, second coat done. Get it cleaned down and we'll start to flatten. See, it feels quite wet, doesn't it? And you see you've made some quite, see how much it's pulled away when you've pulled your fingers off? Yeah. That's too wet. If you do that now, all you're going to do is scrape plaster off. So you need to leave it until you touch it and it will feel a bit drier than that. It won't leave marks like this. See where it picks? See how there's like the peaks on it like that? That's too wet. You need to leave it until it makes a bit of an imprint, but it doesn't do that. Because that means it's just, yes, it's too wet, basically. It massively depends as well on the surface that you're skimming, the temperature of the room, like it's cold today, so this is probably going to take ages to go off. How much you've mixed it, because over mixing can make it go off quicker, providing you've used clean water. If you've got dirty water, for example, it will go off quicker. There's loads of different factors, so you've just got to basically keep an eye on it. Don't just walk away and leave it too long, because it could just turn and then you're fighting against it. But yeah, this at the minute is too wet, so I'll leave it. I'll clean everything down. I'll go and check how Pete is, see if he needs a hand, and then that's it. We'll come back and I'll carry on flattening. So we showed you a minute ago how wet it was and how to know when it's dry enough to flatten. So you can see our fingerprints are still there. So now I'm going to touch it next to it, and you can see that it's just making some very small indents, nothing like that. So that is now ready to flatten. So you can see here, I'm not using my corner trowel now. I used it on the first coat after I'd flattened it, just to form the corner in a bit better. But now I'm just using my trowel to roughly form the corner, get it as neat as I can. Because if I use my corner trowel now, it's going to leave lines, and then when I come to finish it, I'm going to have them lines there, it's going to be difficult to get them out. So literally just using my trowel now, just to get that internal corner right, because it's already there, it's already straight and true down the corner. So I've got the right amount of plaster in there that I can just squeeze it through with my trowel. You want to keep plaster as neat as you can at this stage when flattening. By putting extra lines in it, it's just going to cause you more work when you come in to finish. The most awkward bits to plaster are rolled ceilings. So when you're doing a roll like that, but if you've got it fully vaulted, so it's vaulted on all four sides, you've got an internal corner which is basically round, and obviously a trowel's not round. So you have to use like a brush and a small tool. They're the most awkward bits, but they look awesome once they're done, so it's worth the hassle. So trowels get razor sharp. They need to be razor sharp to give you that lovely finish. So what I'm doing, I'm just using a bit of 1200 grit sandpaper here, just to make sure that my edge is nice and sharp and there's no little tiny nicks in it. Sometimes you can get some little micro scratches which can actually leave marks on the wall. So I'm just using this just before I finish it, just to make sure there's no extra bits on there, no little scratches like I say. Just to prove how razor sharp these actually are, you always get taught, keep your trowel flat like that on the table or wherever you're keeping it, never put it on its side because it's so razor sharp. And the one time that I actually didn't do that, I didn't follow the advice and left it like this. I was plastering a big ceiling. It was for one of Tony's jobs actually a while ago when I was in business with one of my friends. Left my trowel like that to get down and fill my brush it with water. As I hopped off the trestles, I put my arms out in front of me and caught my arm like that on the trowel, and these are marks from my jumper, but you can just see there that basically severed the main artery and blood was going everywhere. If it wasn't for my mate Richard, cheers Rich, he basically made a tourniquet out of a white towel in this client's house and stopped the bleeding. Yeah, it was pretty savage to be honest. I could have died if it wasn't for him. So always keep your trowel flat, kids. It's definitely worth doing. So the walls are ready to start finishing. What I'm going to do now is use my corner trowel just to tidy this corner up, just to get that nice and neat. So I've wet this down. I'm just going to grab my tickler, my little brush, give that a wet, just to wet that plaster up a little bit and then go for it. And all this does is just tidies our corner up, keeps it nice and neat, seals it all in nicely. You can see it's not making any big lines now like it was before because the plaster's gone off enough to take it without marking it. So my corners are already pretty neat because I've used my small tool when I was flattening, so I don't need to clean any snots off. Pretty good across here. I'm just applying a little bit of water. Gonna leave that now for probably another 5 minutes and just give it a cross trowel just to take any additional knobbles off. And like there's a few bits of fat that I've managed to splat on that other wall. Just take all that off and then that's it, we're done. Get on with the next 2 walls. So the room has all been plastered out. It's drying away nicely. We've had some fans on and some heaters on here just to try and get this to dry out quickly, but not too quickly. We don't want cracks. This will hopefully all be dry by Monday, ready for me to start getting some Venetian on these 2 walls. So next up, what we're gonna do is get this floor sorted. I don't know if you can see how bad it is, but basically it sort of crowns about here and then dips down over there. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna get some 4mm ply down on the floor, and then we're gonna put some self-leveler over the top of that. We'll put a little threshold bar in there, so obviously the latex doesn't flood out into the rest of the unit. We're not gonna get it perfect in here because it is quite severe, but we're gonna get it pretty close. So that will obviously make the flooring that's going down in here a lot better. We've got some woodpecker flooring going down in here, so that's gonna look absolutely mint. Yeah, so I'll set up a time lapse and you can watch us work our magic. So guys, today is the day that I finally get to start putting some Venetian plaster on the walls of our podcast room. Like I've mentioned before, this wall here and this wall here will be Venetian plaster. This will be a concrete effect on here, and this will be a high gloss Luciano in green. So before I start to get these walls plastered, I need to apply some primer. So for this, I'm going to be using Epic Fondo Universal. This is a quartz-based primer, which not only provides a key on the walls, but also seals it as well, just to make sure there's not too much suction on there, because the last thing you want to do is dry your plaster out too quick, because it's going to cause you issues. So what I need to do with this particular primer is dilute it down to 30%. So for every 1 litre of primer, I need to add 300 millilitres of water. So I've got my mixing cups ready. I'm going to get all this measured out, get it mixed up, and then get it on the walls. Right, so I have just applied my first coat of the Epic Fondo. That has covered nicely, but because this is bare plaster, what I'm going to do is give this 2 coats, just to make sure I don't want any suction issues, I don't want any delamination issues. So fountain braces approach, I'm just going to give that 10 minutes or so now just to fully dry off, and then I'll get on with the second coat. Just cleaned out my mixing tub ready, tidied ready to rock and roll, and then get another coat on here. Then once that's dry, or whilst that's drying, I will mix up the Travertino, which is out there, which will be the base coat for this wall. What I'm going to do is do this wall completely, get this all finished, all the effects done on it, everything, before I start on this. Because these are different plasters, they're not going to mix well in the corner, so I'm going to get that one fully done and then do that one once that's finished. I'll just tape all the edge up to make sure I don't get any of this plaster onto that wall. So yeah, cool. See you in a minute. So my primer has all gone off nicely, and now it's time to get on the first coat, which is going to be this Travertino. So what I need to do is get the lid popped, and then I've bought myself a fresh little paint mixer. So give it a good stir before I apply it, and then I'm just going to basically apply it to this wall, and then that will be the first coat. The reason I'm using this is because it's a coarser grain than the Marino Fino, which we'll be putting on over the top. So because I'm going for a pitted texture to sort of simulate concrete, this is going to work well as a base coat because it will just sort of accentuate the pitting slightly. So yeah, I'll get this mixed up and start to get it on the wall.
Okay, so that is the first coat on. It's very pitted because it's quite a coarse grain in this plaster. So this will help when I come to do the pitting effect on the concrete with the next coat. So the next coat will be a finer grain of plaster. I'll show you how I do that. You'll see that process. I'm gonna leave this now. I'm gonna get a little heater in here just to keep it a bit warmer, just to make sure it's actually dry in time for tomorrow. And then I can get on with the top coat and get it looking like a concrete wall. So the plaster has been left overnight and it has gone off nicely. We've just had to get a few heaters in here because it wasn't fully dry. There's a few small patches in here that were still a little bit wet. So we need this to be fully dry before I put the second coat on. It is. So we're now going to apply the Marino Fino. So it's the same colour as this plaster, but it's a slightly finer texture. It will enable me to get some very smooth areas on it as well as the pitted effect as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this mixed up, get it applied on the wall, and what I'm going to have to do is basically finish it as I go, just to get the effect really. And then once the effect is on, then I'm going to put in my lines, my vertical lines, and also the rebar holes, or what would be rebar holes. They're obviously just simulating those. So we'll have to get some lasers set up, make sure everything runs through nicely. But obviously I will document that process throughout. So, here we go.
So you have just seen the Marino Fino top coat being applied. You may have seen the lasers that I was casting up the wall to make all these lines and holes. I've made all these incisions here to basically replicate what would appear once a concrete slab is poured for walls basically. So I've used a force of it to create these holes, these indents, and then what I'll do is once this is all fully dry, I'll then get a silicone based wash and then we'll apply it to this wall. Where all the pitting is, we'll pick that out nicely. I'll use a sponge over it. I'll show you what I'm doing while I'm doing it, and then that will basically accentuate all these little pits, so it'll make it look like concrete. I've put the shuttering lines in here and here as well. Because of the plaster, it doesn't go, it's not a high gloss finish, but there is a nice sheen there to it. But the one that will be shiny is this. This is next. This is going to be the Luciano in green. So I'm just going to have a little bit of a jig around in here, get everything, all the lights onto that wall, and then, yeah, we should get some Luciano on there.
So it's the morning after the night before and the plaster has dried very nicely. There's still a few little damp patches, so I've just got my little rig set up here just to help dry those little bits out. And then what I'm going to do is get it sanded down using the old trusty Festool. Dust extractor is a necessity on this as well because it does create a lot of dust. So we sand the Luciano down between coats. You can see we've got just some small ridges. You just want to make this coat as flat as possible before you apply the second coat. So once this is fully dry, I will get on with sanding and then we can get the second coat on. So, I have now sanded down the second coat, which is that, and it is looking very nice. See the nice clouding effect on it. Now what I'm going to do is just give it a quick dust down and wipe down with a cloth just to make sure there's no surface dust whatsoever. I did use obviously the dust extraction, which removes a massive amount of dust, but there may still be some residual on there, so I'll just get a dry, clean cloth, wipe that all down, and then we'll get on with the third and final coat, which will be the lovely shiny one.